and welcome to youthsaga.com. So today our topic is communication skill. So communication skill always have been a vital role in professional and personal life. Ironically though, there's a huge demand in this sector. Very few organizations could sustain in this industry for a long time. So in such a scenario, the English age has been doing wonderfully well. As in today, they are battling on three fronts: the high expectation from students and working professionals, cutthroat competition in pricing. Add to this the shutdown due to COVID 19. Today we have K. Vijay Venkat of English Edge with us to share his experience and how he has been successful in such a market conditions. Hello Vijay, welcome to the show.
Hi Abhijit.
Okay, first of all, tell us something about English Edge.
Abhijit. First of all, thank you for having me here. And it was great that when you called me and we are talking about the English Edge. Uh, and I'm very thankful that you have me on the show today. The first thing I want to tell about the journey of the English Edge is I can divide it into two parts. One is pre corona and post corona, so I can divide my journey into two parts. So pre corona was like normal, getting inquiries and talking to students, and convincing them that the English Edge is one of the good institutes to train. But after the corona has started, so it was very difficult for us to really in sustaining the market. Like many other institutes were struggling, even we were struggling. But fortunately for the English Edge, we have moved to the online platform very quickly. Compared to other institutes, we moved on. We could judge that something big is going to happen, and it's not going to subside anytime soon. We could sense that, and we were the first among the Bhubaneswar institutes to shift to the online mode of training. I think that has actually saved us from from the problems, because as you know, most of the training institutes in Odisha have shut down, and the English Edge has sustained, and it is doing good. At times certain we have moved on very quickly.
Okay, that's correct. It's really tough time and we need to move ahead.
So my next question is, what are the key skills required for the students and professionals to be successful during this pandemic?
Students and professionals should get used to doing things online. Training, or you're going to train people, or you're going to take training from different places. You should mentally shift from offline to online. There is no other way in the near future. At least we don't see anything big happening in the near future as far as the offline trainings are concerned. So we should move on to the online platform. There is no other alternative. And it is good that we have seen a lot of teachers, which whom maybe even 5 6 months prior to this they didn't expect to be online. They were one of the first professionals to move online, and they are comfortable. I've seen my daughter moving on, from offline to online quite comfortably. The schools, right? The teachers have moved on from offline to online quite comfortably. So I think when teachers can move on, I think the younger generation can move on even more quickly. So we have to make sure that we do not have to have that mental block. That the things will be okay next 1 month, so we can do something offline. So that's not going to happen. We have to be mentally fixed that whatever happens in the future, it's going to be online, and we have to get used to the online platform. And many people are getting used to, and few people will join very soon. There is no alternative as such.
So, next thing I want to know, which is related to your field, how is the training sector coping up with the lockdown seasons?
Definitely, it is not easy because in training, especially when you're coming to communication skills, personality development, and group discussions. When we train people or interviews, when we train people, the physical presence of the student is, is always better than online training. So that part we are definitely coping up, because even students, we are telling them, the advantages of doing classes online. For example, whatever sessions I am taking now, I am giving the recording of the session to the student, so that he can refer it anytime later on whenever he's got a doubt. Yeah, he can refer it. But that provision is not available when you do classes offline. So online, we are finding out some good things which can be done online, like giving the class recordings, and giving the PPT, PowerPoint recordings to the students, which were not available offline, and these facilities are available online, and students are really getting used to such things, and they are enjoying it, because the class which is done today, even 1 month, 2 months down the line, you can again go back and check what has happened in that class, because we are providing the online recording to the students. So there are many advantages doing online, and students are getting used to it. I think it's only a matter of time when everyone starts using the online platform. Because we don't see anything happening in the near future, anything offline happening. Even if the government opens up things, people will be very cautious to come for classes offline and meeting people, and the social distancing part comes into play. So there are many things which people would not do anything in the near future. So I think that we don't have an alternative except getting used to it. And people are getting used to it. The good part is people are getting used to it, and they're doing it very quickly.
So, okay, so the next part is, are students coping up with the online training season? Are students coping up with the online training sessions?
Yeah, people who have already started doing online training, people have already started doing online training. Students are already doing online training, and engineering students have already started. The MBA students have already started. Uh, and in fact, even working professionals have already started doing online training. So it is like it is a need. It is like a need where someone wants to do something seriously and is dedicated to doing that. Then it's only a mode, that online or offline. It's only the mode of training. So that shouldn't matter much. And as far as getting the quality of training, either online or offline. So if they're happy with the quality of training, then it shouldn't matter much. And yeah, initially we had certain difficulties with few students who were not, equipped to do it online. Uh, but now everyone is okay with what's happening, and whoever is calling for an inquiry, they are very sure now that the offline will not take place. So whatever will happen only online. So they're only asking, like, what is the platform we are using to do online training. Other than that, no offline inquiries coming up. So this shows that people are getting used to online training.
So, the most important question is, so what are the future plans of English Edge?
See, the English Edge, even prior to the Corona thing, we were planning to have the franchisee model in a different way. Franchisee model, in the sense, we will design the courses, we will train the trainers. The trainers will have to just go and deliver. They it is not franchisee; they run their own model and they have their own trainers. No, we will provide the trainers, we will provide the course material, and we have certain quality thing we maintain at the English Edge. So we obviously want that thing to go on and carry on to the franchisees. So, but now the things have changed. Now what we're looking at is a hub and spoke model, where we sit here in Bhubaneswar, and we give franchisees at different places, and give them a material online. We are doing the franchisee thing online. Maybe it is it is the first experience or first experiment which the English Edge is doing the franchisee model online. I'm not sure how it's going to work, but we are definitely trying to do it online. We talked to a few people who are interested in doing it online because they have seen the quality of training we provide. So they are interested in working on the franchisee model. So that's one part we are working on. And we are moving from colleges to startups now. We want to train startup companies who have a very low budget for training people, or hiring people, or low salaries. The startup companies themselves are struggling right now. So we are also adding startup companies to our profile, where we provide them online training for their marketing, for the management, for crisis management, and team building exercises. Because during this period, there's a lot of team building which is required for these startup companies to work together and move together. So we are moving towards that direction, from school, colleges to startups. So that's one area we are seriously focusing on. So right now our focus area is completely shifting the training to online, and adding one more vertical, that of startups, to the English Edge portfolio.
That's really encouraging. Yes. So based on your experience, how do startup companies like Youth Saga sustain themselves in today's scenario?
See, youthsaga.com, by name itself is got a lot of vibrations in it. That youth vibration is there, and you are leading that team, and you are a dynamic guy who is leading the team. So the future of Youth Saga seems it's in the safe hands, as long as you are driving this Youth Saga team. And as I suggest, or as I recommend to all the startups, it is not about you and me working online. It is how we can make our colleagues, our subordinates, and our team, our franchisees, our partners. If we can get them convinced to move to offline, from offline to online, that will be a big shift, big change in how people work. And I think Youth Saga should also, because you yourself are a technical person, technically very sound. So even you should look at activities where you have a lot of time and a lot of things which are done online. I think that will be, there are a lot of advantages of doing it online, as you must be knowing. We are cutting short on the infrastructure, we're cutting short on rent and other things. But it's only like how our partners, our franchisees or dealers, or our customers, how they cope up, or how they are getting used to online platforms. So that completely is in our hands, like how we convince them and how we take them along with us. Once we do that, I think Youth Saga and any other startup company will be doing good for themselves. If they are convinced and convince their partners to go online, it will be a wonderful journey, I think.
That's true. That's encouraging. That's reality. That's point we have to think about it. Okay. Well, so next part is, so what do you think about the business ecosystem in Odisha?
See, business ecosystem in Odisha, as far as I have worked here, it has got a good ecosystem. People are really enterprising. They are very cooperative. They are friendly. But there are a couple of things which Odisha can do good to improve their business ecosystem. One is, you know, uh, they take a lot of break in between. Like for example, I think Bhubaneswar is one of the only capital cities in the world where most of the shops are closed from 1 p.m. to 4 p.m. I think there are little things like this, but it creates a huge impact on the how businesses work here. And add to that, the competitiveness is lacking. The cutthroat competition which you see in other capital cities, that is lacking in Odisha. And that a couple of things, like if there is a startup company, there are many things which is required for a startup company. Though there are many schemes and many advertisements by the government for supporting startups, I think on the ground reality is different. You and me know that on the ground nothing moves. Okay, so I think that should be improved. Where if someone is doing a business and someone is doing a startup company in Odisha, because most of the people do not prefer Odisha as on date, because they don't feel the potential in Odisha. But if someone is doing something in Odisha, they want to do a startup in Odisha, then he should be encouraged. He should be really be encouraged, and he should be given all the facilities which is required, because he is doing something which no other person has thought about, or has dared to do something in Odisha, because they think Odisha is not a developed market. But if someone is doing it in Odisha and he wants to do a startup and grow up in Odisha, then you should definitely be supported, and you should be given all the facilities which are required for the startup business. I think these 3-4 areas, the ecosystem should work very hard, and once that is in place, I think this market would be one of the one of the best markets to do business on.
Exactly, you are raising a very valid points. So we really think about it, and as a new entrepreneurs, we have to work on this, and we have to appeal to our government to improve. Okay. What are the expansion plans of the English age? How do you want to expand?
Uh, the English Edge, as I told you, we are working on a franchising model. We are working on getting the startup companies on
Yeah.
board. Okay, and we are also looking at another vertical we have just started off is getting some foreign partners here to work on some projects, getting some foreign partners here. We have one seminar on the 1st of August, where we have a speaker. We have one of my friend participating from Japan. I think that is the first step we are taking towards that. Getting some foreign players, encouraging people, startup companies, and students who are innovative ideas, who want to do business in overseas. So what skills they would require to settle or to do business overseas. So we are doing a couple of seminars on that. The first seminar we have on the 1st of August, where we'll be addressing these questions. So yeah, I mean this will be one of the areas will be English heads will be focusing on, like getting some foreign players and working with them closely to give platforms to give a good platform to students, innovative students who have good ideas, but they're not having a good platform. So English Edge is actually working in a direction where we can provide a 360-degree platform to students, not only on communication, but also in supporting them in what they want to achieve in life.
And wait, well, the next thing, which is very very important for our youth, are the most of the students and the professionals really have a very fearful about the public speaking. So, what the messages you want to deliver for the students and professionals who are fear of public speaking?
See, I am a person who believes in the 90% 10% formula. If you have heard that, that is a very strong formula actually. I strongly believe in that 90% and 10% formula. It can be in communication, it can be in business, it can be in any vertical. So what does this 90% 10% formula tell you is, in communication, 90% of the time you are preparing the other person to understand your speech, to understand what you're telling. Only the 10% is the time you are actually converting him into a customer, or converting him to what you believe in. So the 90% of the effort you're putting in is actually you are just laying the ground, and 10% is the actual action, right? So the same thing works in terms of business, in terms of any example you can take in life. If you look at colleges, 90% of the people, 90% of the students, the management of the college doesn't have hopes on 90% of the students. They have hopes on only 10% of the students, whom they think they can be rank holders, and they can give some name to the college. So this 90% 10% theory works in every sphere of life. Okay, Even in an office, if you see 90% of the people don't work, but 10% of the people work. Okay, so it is, this works in most of the cases, 90%, 10% theory, and I'm a strong believer in that 90%, 10% theory. And even in communication, it is the same thing. See, you can only communicate to someone who is ready to listen to you, who is ready to listen to you. You cannot communicate with someone who is not ready to listen to you. So the first 90% of your efforts goes into convincing the other person that you are talking something sensible. Okay, and only the 10% is what you're actually delivering it to him. So as far as public speaking goes, the same theory works in public speaking also. Even if there are 1,000 people, 10,000 people who are listening to you, 90% of them actually don't listen to you. Okay, only 10% people will listen to you. So you do not have to worry about, like, you are 100 people or 200 people in front of you. You can be blindly sure that 90% people are not listening to you, or not interested in what you're saying. So out of 100 people, maybe 10 people are listening to you. Okay, and you don't have to worry about those 10 people, because they're already interested in what you're talking. They're already interested in what you want to tell them, right? So they will anyway listen to you. So if you divide the crowd into 90%, 10%, 90%, even if you tell them the best things in the world, they will not listen to you. And 10% of the people, even if you tell something related to what they like, they listen to you. Public speaking is, again, if you divide this into 90% and 10% theory, the fear will just go off. And the theory of the fear, that is what actually sometimes I really analyze what is happening to this students. Like they are fearing something which they never seen. They're fearing they no one has seen the fear actually. It is only the imaginary thing we have in mind. The fear is only imaginary. So we imagine something and we are getting scared. That is the funniest part. So I tell my students, the day you physically see fear, you come and talk to me. So unless then, you don't talk to me about fear. If you can identify and you can tell me, like, this is how the fear looks physically, then I believe you, or I don't believe you. It is only the imaginary thing you're talking about. So for me, there's nothing called fear. There is nothing called fear of public speaking, because there are two things which you have to apply, because there's nothing called fear. There's no physically something called fear. And the 90%, 10% theory is there, where 90% people are anyway not interested in what you're saying. So you don't have to worry about the people.
I have been seeing few people, and the students are so much scared about public speaking that they're sweating and they're fumbling, and their heartbeat is as growing up, and they're really feeling scared.
Yeah, and we don't have to count everyone is listening to you. Yeah, correct. We don't have to count everyone is listening to you, because you just blindly believe that 90% of the people will not listen to you.
So your point is very very valid, and I really appreciate your time. So we hope that we have to go for the more sessions in the future. Thank you very much for being with us, and take care. And we are congratulating to you for your future growths. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Abhijit. Thank you. Take care.